Hi friends, in this video I am sharing how I made a shadow box card, the one that fits in a standard envelope. Mine is European size A6, but the way I made it, it actually can be any size you want. And the best part is it doesn't require any special dies, and it doesn't also need lots of measuring. So my first card that you just saw was made of thinner cardstock, but this time I'm having Bristol Smooth cardstock just to make it easier, because I wanted to do some ink blending, but you can use any kind of covered cardstock, or maybe layer on top some patterned paper if you feel like measuring. But now I'm going with cutting the paper, and I'm cutting it at 10.5 centimeters, which is the width of a standard European A6 card. And I will do same for the second piece. So this is all what you need to know: the measurements of your card base, or the size of the card base you want your finished card to be. Now I will trim the length, and on my guillotine trimmer there is a mark for A5 where I would normally cut if I'm making a normal sized card, but this time I would just add a little bit more, like 1 centimeter or where the measurement ends, and I will cut there. So if you are making A2 card and your length is 5.5 inches, then you would probably add like 1/4 inch more. And now comes the scoring part. So knowing the width, or I should say the height in this case, of the finished card, what I want to be, and that's 10.5 centimeters. If you are making an A2 sized card, that will be 4.25. So I'm scoring at 10.5. So I'm having a square, and then from the end of the paper I will just score at 1 centimeter. But what I did was I moved a tiny bit my paper to align with the markings, so I can have a full centimeter. And I will do the exact same for the second piece. Score at 10.5 or whatever that number is, just to have a square, and then 1 centimeter from the edge, and that's it. So I will just gently fold along the scored lines so that I can trim a little bit of the edges of these small parts, or the flaps that will be used to adhere the pieces together. So for the front piece, for my previous card, I used a circle die, but any die, any shape would work as long as it fits and there is a little bit room to adhere the two pieces together. So this time I went with a different shape, just some die from my stash. But the only thing you have to pay attention to is when you are adhering back and the front piece together, just so that flap fits behind the opening and it doesn't show. but even if it's showing, you can still trim a little bit off and it's all fine. So here I'm showing you my finished card. I had used stamps and distress inks for the outside and inside. And for the inside, actually, I used the stencil to create this kind of wallpaper. And there I'm showing you this small flap. So I tried to match the ink blending on the two pieces so that the seam is not seen much. And here for my little mice, I added 2 pieces of acetate, sturdy acetate, so it's still see-through, but there is kind of 3D effect. So first thing I do is masking off the bottom part, and I will do some ink blending. I won't be really showing you the process because in this video I just wanted to show you how to make this shadow box card and not really how I ink blend. Here I'll be making a sea bottom or like under the sea kind of scene. So I chose blue distress inks and then I will have brown for the sand portion. But if you know what kind of scene you want in your shadow box, probably you can do the ink blending first and then do the scoring and die cutting. It might be easier, but I rarely plan my cards or my projects, so I do the things a little bit backwards, but it still works out in the end. I will use the mask. Once I'm done with this piece of the shadow box, I will just put the 2 pieces together and move the mask to the front piece so that I can continue the ink blending and it will be matching. And I will also do some ink blending on the outside of the card. So I'm not going to show you that, but I also use the stencil just to add a bit more interest. You can decorate the outside of the box if you'd like to, or maybe just cut patterned paper and glue it, or just whatever you would like, or maybe do some stamping. So fast forward, and here is everything ink blended, and these are my pieces for the scene. And now I will reinforce the folds, and I have 2 pieces of acetate, but first I'm attaching the front and the back piece together, and I usually use double-sided tape, and I add also a little bit of liquid adhesive. And then I will play a little bit with the arrangement, and I will adhere these rocks on the back of the shadow box, but just keep in mind to stay away from the folds so that the box can fold flat. And once I know how I want my images to go, I will go ahead and adhere the acetate pieces. So here I'm making a mistake and I wanted to show you. Even though I'm making this shadow box for the second time, this time I decided to measure. So I'm having 2 strips of acetate and they are around 2 centimeters longer than the width my shadow box. opening, which is 10.5 centimeters. And I have scored at the both ends, so it's like 1 centimeter on both sides. But I didn't take into account that when assembling the pieces together, it will add just a tiny bit extra, just millimeter or two to the width, and my acetate pieces should be a slightly longer in order to fold completely flat. And here it just wouldn't fold flat. I had to rip it apart and try again and again, and it simply wouldn't work. So I decided to do it as I did it for the first card, which is just taking the strip of acetate, scoring first at 1 centimeter, then taking the shadow box and placing it on top of my acetate strip, and then just finding the place where I'm supposed to score. And that's it. I do the same for the second piece of acetate. And now I know that for sure they're the correct size. And I will add double-sided adhesive to the flaps and adhere. And then I will just place my images the way I want them to be. And here is all finished. So I'm showing you all of the sides and how it looks, and it folds perfectly flat on both sides. And here is a standard envelope, and it all fits, and it's not even bulky, so it stays nicely in the envelope. So this is the whole tutorial, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a nice day. Bye!